Good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends and folks all over the world, at home and in diaspora. I welcome you once again to another exciting session of Hero to Hero, or H to H, as we might call it. This will be the third in the series of H to H. We started off this program in August with Mrs. Adedibu bearing the cards with the inaugural session. Very, very powerful session we had in August. And you can always go back to our social media handles and our website to even listen in or watch the previous sessions. And in September, Mr. Yinkaoni came on board to even put more light and expatiate on what Mrs. Adedibu started with our own life experience and then Mr. Oni's life experience. We took a break with our quarterly meeting, which we call the Pavilion Dialogue, last month, having Mrs. Ibilola Amao anchoring that session. You will all agree with me, those of us that attended that session, that were able to take one or two things out of that session with Mrs. Amao. Such a powerful woman. We really do appreciate all these people, from Ms. Adedibu to Ms. Anyinkaoni to Mrs. Amao. Today, we're resuming the series of the H to H, like I said, and you'll be having me, your humble self, servant, OLUWAKAYODE, fondly called Pake, that will be anchoring this session, talking about life experiences, ups and downs, and challenges, overcoming the challenges through the special grace of God. Let me start by appreciating God Almighty for giving us every grace and strength to come this far in this journey. It's not been easy, I must tell you. But we all decided, the 8 trustees or fellows, as we call them, and the 5 arrows when we started together, although some others have joined us. And then with our partners, especially on the media side, that have been with us since last year in November, when we gathered for the first time, meeting with the initiator of this idea in 2004, Pastor Tunde Bakari, PTB, as I call him. And so we appreciate everybody, and especially our audience that have been participating since August. We can only pray that God will continue to incite us, give us the goodwill of life to be able to achieve our various destinies in different aspects of life. I also want to thank my dear wife, whose name you see on my t-shirt, fondly called Make. I tell him that blessing or whatever you experience is by association. I just want to appreciate that as well. Just to give us a brief about what Euro to Euro is all about. Euro to Euro is one of the programs of the Trustees of True Riches. And you can go to our website to have more insight and revelation about what we're doing, of how God is using 8 people as fellows and 5 or 7, 8 other young people, youth, as arrows. They've yielded themselves, their resources, time, money, and what have you, to advance the cause of the next generation. Euro to Euro is one of the 3 major programs of the Trustees of True Riches. Like I said, started in August this year. And the other one is the Pavilion Dialogue that we had last month in October. And then the final program, it will come up in July 2024, after we've run the full length of Euro to Euro, the Pavilion Dialogue, which will be a mega one, which we expect everybody to participate in. Is going to be a mixture or a hybrid of physical and virtual meetings, where everybody that's been on this program will congregate. You'll be hearing more about that. So the Trustees of True Riches essentially is just to empower the next generation through mentoring, coaching, training on one side, and through support and assistance on businesses that are owned or managed by the youth. And there's a foundation that has been laid, like I said, in 2004 by PTB. And one wise man of old actually said, I have received from the Lord and laid a foundation, and each one of you should know how to build on it. And so, what we are doing with Trustees of True Riches is that we are building on a foundation that was laid in 2004 and 2006. Today's discussion, I call it discussion because we'll be hearing from you as we go along, is going to be tagged or titled possible. If you look at the word impossible, it's the same thing as impossible, just a separation or a conversion with what we call the apostrophe. And so we'll be looking at I am possible, you are possible, despite all impossibilities. You are welcome on board as we go on this journey together of 828 November 2023. See you on the other side. You're welcome back. And so we're going to be looking at my own life experience as it revolves around possible from impossibilities. Many years ago in the mid-60s, this young man that you call Paquet was born into a family of six, father, mother, and three other male siblings, I being the second of the four. And so from the beginning, my life has been an interesting one. How? I was conceived somewhere in the United States of America between Arizona and Massachusetts. But my father, being a very strict disciplinarian of blessed memory, decided that his son, this young man, will not be born in America. He wanted somebody that would be a true Nigerian, in truth and indeed. And as you go along, you'll be hearing some of the adages in Yoruba that's made me a true Nigerian and a Yoruba indeed. And so a few weeks before what we call the EDD or delivery date of this young man, my mother was sent back home to come and deliver. When I look back, I remember I've told one or two of my friends to say, I hope the decision my father took then and even subsequent decisions I took about coming back home during the course of my career will not be a regret. But I thank God thus far he has not been. And I know surely that it will not be. So I was born in a place called Ibadan, one of the largest cities in Africa. And I spent the first 24, 25 years of my life in Ibadan. Why? Because I was born with a kind of sickness that people consider will be for a lifetime. And my grandmother, because I stayed longer with my grandmother than I stayed with my mother of blessed memory as well. And Mama will tell me, you can't be like those children. And I'll ask, why can't I be like those children? I was born like them. I have all the parts. I have the head, I have neck. So why can't I? Say, Mama will say you're a special child. I condone money. Just to guide me, to protect me from attack of the ailment. And I remember vividly well, as a child. It was so today I look at teenagers, I used to look at youth, and there's not much difference in the undertone of how we behave. It's just that the approach has actually changed, and understandably so. we are near digital world. I was talking to some youths some months ago and said, we have passed Gen Z, is generation Alpha. I said, we'll get to Omega and then we'll find another world. So it's actually the approach is not too different of how we perceive life in those days and the things we want to do outside what our parents and probably community wanted us to do. And I'll sneak out and I'll go to play with my friends, play football, do very strenuous things. As a matter of fact, I remember a particular year. That was the first time I will see what is called the epidural in my life. My siblings, my cousins that have come to stay with us during the holidays actually went to fetch water in Ibadan in those days because there was a major construction happening around custom area through secretariat, which cut off water supply to where we were staying in Bodija in those days. So everybody was going from morning to fetch water, uh, not only for our house, but the entire close where we used to stay. And at the point, just carried the pail, or what we call the basia, large bowl, and went to fetch water. And I think I've done like 3 or 4 rounds. On the last round, I had a stiff neck, and I heard my grandmother saying, "I told you, you can't do that." And I was I was I was given epidural for the first time in my life just to make things ease off and become normal again. So this is how I started my life, and I did my primary school in 2 different places. St. Bridges um, Primary School in Mokola in Ibadan. Then I went to so Popsi took me to Bodia International School and said this is where you need to continue your schooling and all those things. So I concluded my primary school in Bodia International School in those days. And then I proceeded to Loyola College, what I consider one of the best secondary schools. Please don't be envious of me. You can mention your own school when it's your time to hold the microphone. So Loyola College in those days, um, I enrolled there from Form 1 to 5 and then went back to do a receipt um, for various reasons. Because at the point of leaving school, at the age of 16, my mother passed on, and there were some domestic challenges, including ill health that I talked about initially. And then I became, at that stage, at the tender age of 16, the breadwinner of the Adigun family, doing all sorts of things, working in Ministry of Social Development in Ibadan, um, doing some DJ stuff with DJ Dele Adelego in those days. He would do some recordings for me on tapes, and then I'll go and do DJ to make some money. And then I proceeded to the Polytechnic Ibadan for what we call the A levels in those days at the Basic School of Polytechnic Ibadan. From there, I went to the University of Ibadan to study agricultural economics. So people will say, why did you study agricultural economics? Yes, I couldn't make the mark for medicine because my dad actually wanted me to study either medicine or engineering because he was an engineer. But I've always been a social person. And so one of his friends, Mr. Obarinde of blessed memory again, um, told him that this boy is a social person, social sciences. Let him do social sciences. And I didn't want to do core social sciences. Just like I didn't understand the subject chemistry. I can't relate with things I can't see. Maybe I have some touch with Thomas Didymus in the Bible. So I want to see when you say a molecule, I want to see an atom. I want to touch. I want to feel. So I said I'll do in between both. I'll do a bit of science and social science. And in those days, because of the way I grew up, I loved gardening. I love agriculture, and I opted for agricultural economics. So to do a bit of science on one side, another on social science on the other side. And so I graduated from University of Ibadan under the leadership of the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Ayobanjo. Um, and so the second phase of life happened. I decided just before graduation that I will not serve in Oyo State. I will not do my NYC in Oyo State. And so I was posted to Plateau State. Somehow, after doing a bit of orientation, I found myself coming back to Lagos with my friends, Shola Adesheun, Edi Ugowe, and Shola Alabi. So I started my career sort of in banking um, with the Savannah Bank of Nigeria as a youth corper. After the youth corps, I was liked so much by my senior colleagues, Jerry Azi, Mr. Yerua, Chief Elliott, and Bulus Dewan. And they couldn't get a place for me as a permanent staff. The only thing they could do, funny enough, was to get me a contract job. Funny enough, as I was working, being given stipends, they were paying me salary from their own salary. It shows how people have surrounded me from the start of life. And that has actually brought me to embrace three values. Because a man must have values that he lives by. One of the values of Pake and indeed the entire Adigo family is relationship. Um, I believe that the only thing we have with God, whether we are Muslims, we are Christians, or whatever faith we believe in, is relationship. And so one of the values that I cherish and we embrace in my family is relationship. And so I was surrounded by these people, and um, I went to represent the MD of Savannah Bank in those days at a completion board meeting of a syndication for the mobile house at VI stroke Lekki that you see there today. And I represented his interest as a contract staff. It was there I met a man called Cyril Chukuma. Um, if he's watching today, he will remember this story. And he said, young man, you came to represent, and can I have your card? Um, a complimentary card in those days was something of joy. And I pulled him to the side and said, I don't have a complimentary card. He said, and you're working with another bank. I said, I'm a contract staff and I don't have. I said, you came to represent your MD. I said, yes. He said, um, he gave me his card and said I should contact him. As God will have it, I forgot. I left the card somewhere. I didn't remember. Until about 2 months later, one of my friends, Yetunde Ogunranti, in those days, she's married now with a good family, was working in Society General and invited me to her office in VI, house in Marina, the Black House, which is still there but not functional. So I went to see her and we were discussing. And she said, oh, she just did aptitude tests with Citibank, almost opposite Society General in those days. And would I like to work there and try? And I said, why not? And I remembered Cyril Chukma. I said, oh, I even know somebody there. And I walked across the street and went there to look for Cyril Chukuma, met with him, and he scheduled me for an interview. Cyril Chukuma actually wanted me to be in corporate banking because that was sort of what I was doing in Savannah Bank. And I did the aptitude test, passed, I was called for an interview. And now another story. On the interview panel was Cyril Chukuma, Bolo Nodede, that we call Coco, the MD CEO of FMDQ today, and then a woman called Christy Abutu, very amiable woman at that. At the end of the interview, I was asked to excuse them. Somehow I got to know that there was a discussion between Cyril Chukuma and Christy Abutu. Christy Abutu was just appointed the group head of branch coordination, and she wanted me to work with her. And eventually, Cyril Chukuma considered that I should work with Christy Abutu. I mentioned these names so that you will know indeed that I cherish relationship out of everything. And some of you that are listening today will know that whatever it takes, I do really cherish relationship. And so I started my career, in furtherance of my career from Savannah Bank, I started with Citibank. And the journey with Citibank took me to some parts of the world, England, South Africa, and eventually, during the course of my career, at the outbreak of the banking industry in those days, we had up to 89 banks in Nigeria in those days. People were moving. Some of the people that were my colleagues that I used to teach balancing in cash and tellers, funds transfer, they were getting two levels to move to other banks. And one of um, who I call my brother and a mentor in the industry, Henry Seminitari, um, had approached me. I think then he was in UBA, was working outside Nigeria. Whenever he comes home, he comes to see me because he told me then that I was inside the cubicle where he was when he was in Citibank and was inviting me to different places to work with him. And I said, I have not finished my course yet. That again brings me to what Mrs. Amal talked about last month about delayed gratification. And so people are moving, getting to levels and all those things. And I said, I've not finished my course in Citibank. Eventually, Mr. Eddie Ogbogu, another of my mentors, we are still very much in touch, who was in diaspora in Citibank, came back home, saw a few of us, Akinfami Lucy, Aki Akimbo, Shegun Lamidi, and myself, and took us to South Africa on a project, but unknown to me that the career had been channeled eventually to go to what we call the senior region, Central East, Middle East Africa of Citibank, where some of us can become what we call the senior country operations officer, just like him as a succession plan. While in South Africa, another story. For different things I saw, I was not comfortable with the lifestyle in South Africa. As a matter of fact, one of the things that made me to eventually decide to leave South Africa was an incident beside our house in Johannesburg. There was an argument at the other flat, and I think there was a gunshot, and it went through the wall, hit another person in another flat, a Nigerian who passed on. And in the middle of night, unable to sleep, God told me that your time is up here. However, before then, again, Mr. Henry Seminitari had approached me that there's been a consolidation in 2005, if you recall, in the banking industry. And First City Monument Bank had acquired three other banks as merger, and they want to expand their operations, especially branch operations. And one of those times I came home because I made sure, as a family man, I always come home every other month. If my kid cannot come, I'll come. And I came home and I saw Henry Seminitari and made me to talk to my former boss, who I respect up till today, Mr. Ladi Balogun. Mr. Ladi Balogun, I remember that day in 2005, December, he was traveling out to Ghana, I can recall. And on his way, I spoke with him and we had a chat, and Harry concluded. The rest is history. And in 2006 March, I joined one of the greatest banks in Nigeria today that's produced a lot of CEOs and the likes of them. And I joined First City Monument Bank Limited in 2006 March. And then another journey of my career started. Rose through the ranks, rose through the process, and then eventually had to leave in 2021. Various things happened: projects, processes, procedures, working in operations, going to sales, coming back to operations, and to go to the highest level before disengaging physically from First City Monument Bank, FCMB, but not spiritually, because FCMB still remains part of my family till tomorrow. And I want to thank everybody that have participated in one way or the other in this career life of mine. That is, in a nutshell, what my career has been. Recall that I mentioned that there are three values I cherish most and has become part of the values um, or pillars of the Adigun family, immediate and extended. One of them, like I said, is relationship. But sandwiching relationship is godliness. And on the other side is hard work. I seem not to know any other way of a successful living than these three things: godliness, relationship, and hard work. And that's the way I've lived my life, especially from the day I became an author way back at the age of 16, knowing that anything that seems impossible can become possible. I can become possible with God, my brain, and my hands. And that is the way I've lived life thus far. I'll give us some instances about how this has been, how God has helped me thus far, how relationship has helped me thus far, how hard work has helped me thus far. So my brain, my hands under God Almighty. That's the way I put it. So during the course of my career and even life, I've always known that at the end of life, especially when I turn 50, what I'm doing now is what I'm going to do. Absolutely. Impacting lives, impacting generations, and helping people to succeed. And I've known that you cannot get to the top except you help other people. As a matter of fact, God Almighty, and please go and check this out about your life in the past, life in the present, or life in the future. God Almighty is not obliged to give you certain blessings, certain benefits until you enter certain relationships. Whether you consider the relationships good or you consider the relationships bad. I'll give you a very perfect natural example. The gift or the benefit of a child, which we know as the heritage of the Lord and a reward from God, cannot happen. A human being, different times people have tried to clone to make human beings, but a human being as created by God after his image and likeness cannot manifest on this side of eternity called earth unless there's a relationship between the seed of a man and the egg of a woman. It does not matter whether the person comes either by promise or by prostitution. There must be a relationship between a man and a woman for the gift and the benefit of a human being to happen. Whether you call it direct intercourse, in vitro, IVF, whatever science calls it, it is because there's a relationship between a man and a woman, between the seed of a man and the egg of a woman. That is what God has made this world to be, this earth to be. And no wonder he said that as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest will not cease. And so this is what I've done all the days of my life, trusting God to help me, that even though I fail, and let me tell you, this man has failed so many times. But one thing I've done, like PTB will say, is that I've never failed to follow him. That even in times where I cannot trace him in what he's doing or what is happening to me in any situation or circumstance, I've always trusted him to do the best. In terms of relationship, I consider it an honor for every human being, every element of creation that God has brought my way, including plants and animals. As a matter of fact, one of the ways by which God Almighty talks to us is through nature. He said through the wise man, "You sluggard, you lazy man, go to the ant and learn wisdom lesson." So, relationship for me also is very key. And I can tell you, not relationship by faith, I mean, my belief in faith or doctrine, not relationship by tribe, not relationship by career alone, but relationship with anybody and anything God brings along my way. Part of the heroes and the fellows, part of the arrows today have been part of that success story in one way or the other. That even at the point of death, through prayer, encouragement, and even gifts, they've been a support. And I do appreciate each and every one of them. Lastly, in terms of hard work, I think I'm one of the people that people beg just to take things easy. Even today, one of the arrows when we were chatting early this morning, when I came back from the video, was saying, oh, Pake, any harvest too? And I said, I will. But because the harvest is plenty, especially for the next generation, it's only the laborers that are few. And this is one of the things that is driving the pursuit of true riches. So hard work has been something I know. I don't know of anything. When I was growing up, like I said, I was a DJ. I was selling fruits because at the point, we couldn't even go to the market after father and mother had gone. Anywhere I get to in the world, I always look for mushroom as part of menu because in those years, though they were few, but they were hard years for us in the Adigun family. Mushroom was our meat. So any restaurant all over the world I get to, be it Italian, Spanish, Thai, Indian, even Yoruba cuisine, I always look for mushroom because I can't forget the intimacy and friendship I had with mushroom in those days. So I did DJ, was taking close to people to sell. I had a tailor that knows your size, even by just looking at your picture, and I'll sell it. I sell fruit. I was a conductor on the street of Lagos. Bega, Epuna, my very good friend, and Buki Akinwale, Ni Akinwale, my very good friend in England. We remember this. In 1990, we had a big bus we were using to do transportation between Lagos and Ibadan. And again, like my father in faith, I can still do conducting for public transportation. It's just that the price will change. I'll pay the price in dollars. So for me, and this is what I always encourage young people about, with God, with good relationship, even supposed bad relationship, you'll be able to forge ahead, and then hard work, your hands providing for you. And in doing that, I encourage people when you want to work, please do the work that you are passionate about. So that even when gratification is delayed or is not coming, you still feel good, you still feel fulfilled, you still feel full in doing those things that you're passionate about or what you have a flair about. One of the things I don't struggle to do is to talk to people. I might not be a good public speaker, but one on one or to talk to few people, try to identify what the issues are and what solutions to provide to address the issues is something I'm very home with. You can wake me up any time of the day, and I mean any time of the day, 2 a.m. By 5, 6 a.m., you will be the one saying, Pake, I beg, I need to go and rest because I found a passion in discussing life issues with people. In terms of family, um, I have a lot of children, though one wife. So I have children that are born by other women, born by other men that are part of this clan. And it's because, again, I so much believe in the next generation. I, I, I just feel this generation that is coming up, like we know in the war of a king in the Bible, that they said, "Give us your goods," and he said, "You can have the goods." And then they came back because that's the way the devil behaves. He said, "Give us your children, give us your wives." And he went to the elders, and the elders said, "Do not consent." And he said, "Okay, how am I going to win this war if you say I should not consent?" And they said, "By the hands of the princes, of the men of the region." So I believe so much in this generation, and that is what has brought about the trustees of True Riches that we're involved in. Please, as we go along on this journey, because we still have about 5 more sessions of Hero to Hero and 2 more sessions of the Pavilion Dialogue, make sure you are part of this program. Make sure that you log on to our website to register as you go on in the journey. Quickly, in terms of work, I need to talk to us a bit about that. It's a myth that we need to correct, honestly. Um, People say you cannot be successful, you cannot get to the top if you work for somebody else. You cannot be in the Forbes 100, 1,500 of this world if you continue to work for somebody. It's a myth. It's the society, by and large, that's made it to be so. It is not so. I repeat, it is not so. There are 2 types of people that God has created to work just like He works, because God works. Don't deceive yourself. And so we are expected to work. But there are 2 types of people you see on the face of the earth that work. One, those who start a business. Two, those who work for them. One, those who start a business, who also work by starting the business, managing the business at that level, and those, number two, who work for them. However, the way the world is that this can swing at any particular point in time. What do I mean? Those who start a business will, can, would, should work for other people. And then those who work for them at some point will start their own business in one form, shape, or the other. That is the way it is. And so when people begin to say you cannot get to the height of your career, whether it's professional career or business vocational career, it's a lie. Don't believe a lie. Because not everybody can start a business at any particular point in time, and not everybody can work for somebody at any particular point in time. You just need to know your past slot and the time and season that you are in to fit into either of the two. I'll give you some examples to buttress this point. Papa Gamaliel Olosode never started a business. Pa Ohiwere never started a business. They worked for different organizations until they retired. Today, these are people that are recognized in the industrial world, at least all over the world. If I leave Nigeria and go to where we take Western education from, Henry McKnight was the MD for different times. Jack Welch was MD at different times. As a matter of fact, Jack Welch's secretary wrote a book, Managing Up, that at first sale reached over 1 million copies. This is somebody that was working for somebody that was working for an organization. So don't limit yourself in terms of work. Just know what you're called into, do it diligently. Delayed gratification may come, but God, in His infinite mercy, will surely remember you and give you your own. And so, three principles of financial success, because this is another area of mine. If you are not faithful in that which is little, if you are not faithful in that which is another man's, and you are not faithful in unrighteous mammon, how will you have your own? So faithfulness and diligence with passion in the work you do, with the grace of God upon your life and good relationship, will surely give you the things that you need to prosper. In rounding up, because we're going to give time, some minutes for questions and answers, comments, and what have you. As we go away from here today, I'd like us to do some reality checks, and there are about 5 of them. And please, you can go to my YouTube channel, OLUWAKAYODE ADIGUN or Pake, and see some of the things that I've done in terms of encouraging the youth and listening more elaborately to some of these 5 things I'm going to mention. I call them reality checks. Number 1 is you must know who you are. In my short life on this side of eternity, I've related home and abroad, and please trust me, I've traveled and I've seen Caucasians, Hispanics, Spanish, Americans, Europeans, Africans, Nigerians, Yorubas, Igbos, Fulanis, Hausas. I've seen also. In my short stay in life, in terms of who you are, which I call identity, a lot of people have lived other people's lives. I've seen people that have lived their parents' life. I even have somebody of my age still living in his parents' house. You say, wow, I've seen. I've seen people that have lived their siblings' life. I've seen people that have lived their business associates' lives. I've seen people that have lived their friends' lives. What still, for me, are people that live their supposed quote and unquote enemies' lives. They look for the things they don't have, use the money they don't have to acquire those things just to impress or oppress the people that don't like them or people they don't like. I call it running with the Joneses. But identity is very key. Who are you in particular? You must be able to define who you are at any particular point in time. The second reality check as a pillar following identity is, what do you stand for? What we call brand essence. What is your purpose? And what is your self-discovery? What is your purpose in life? What is your self-discovery? Again, a lot of people cannot write down their brand. A brand is who you are and what you are about. If you ask anybody, so who are you and what you are about, they will be stuttering. It's not that they don't even know sometimes, but they don't want to write it down so that they don't want to be held accountable for their brand as a person. Number 3 is, where do you need to be at any sphere of life, any time of life? Where do you need to be? You must have at the back of your mind, in whatever you are doing, what I call destination. What is your destination? In school, when you're going to school, what is your destination? In this relationship you are in, what is your destination? In career, what is your destination? In church or mosque, what is your destination? You must have a destination. Running these 3 together actually defines who, what, and where you are at any particular point in time, without anybody defining you. Number 4, How will you get to where is your destination is? How will you get to where your destination is? What is the process you have to follow? How will you get there? What are the things you need to do? What do you need to forego? What do you need to acquire? What do you need to improve on? What more should you do that you're currently doing, but you need to do more of it? I call it the gold mine. MINE. More, improve, new, and expunge. Under that is what I call the three C's: chances, choices, and consequences. Chances, choices, and consequences. Please mind you, a choice that is not made by you is already made for you by someone else, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So the fourth thing is, how will you get to where you're going, which is your destination? And lastly, the fifth reality check is, what do you actually seek in what you do? Today, a lot of people seek material things. And when you say define success, to them, success is how many cars you have, how many houses you built, how many parties you've been to, how many wives have you bought. To me, success is not all that. Success is identifying who you are, where you've been led to, and going on that journey yourself. Success is about benefits that you look for, the gratification that you look for. Is it to impact people's lives? Is it to amass it onto yourself? And at the end of the day, you discover that it amounts to nothing. So these five things, again, your identity, your self-discovery, your destiny, your purpose and self-discovery, your destination, your chances, your choices, and the consequences thereof, which is what are the things, or how you get to where you're going, and finally, what do you seek in all the things that you do so that you can be fulfilled at the end of the day. The most important thing in a man's life is a legacy you leave behind. I use this opportunity to speak into the future of majority of the youths, teenagers listening to me today, that you will make it. We have interest in you making it, because you are the ones that will raise the foundation of many generations and build the old waste places and construct the bridges that have divided us along religious lines and tribal lines in this nation, and indeed the entire world, starting with Africa. Thank you very much. Now we can go to the comments and discussions. God bless you. Thank you very much. The question on the screen is saying, which results to better productivity? That is, which one leads to better productivity? Smart work or hard work? It's both. And I'll explain why. As you work hard, you must work smart. As you work hard, you must work smart. And I'll give you a perfect example of my career. When I was in Citibank in those days, everybody knew me as a workaholic. That was what launched me into knowing many things in the bank. I remember in those days in branch coordination, my direct boss, Gaventa Otono, were posting for, because Citibank started online banking in those days. But unknown to people then, some of our satellite branches in Port Harcourt, Kano, Warri, and eventually Bonny, and then the rural branches in Ososa, Ifako, and Co. They were bringing their tickets to us to post, especially when the satellite branches systems are down. And so when we want to post, we have what we call the roving ports. roving ports in those days are under institutional branch banking solution (IBBS). You can't say this your system has been allocated to a port to process the things you want to process. So we go all over the bank head office in those days. We go from construction building to commerce house. They are beside each other. And when the tickets come, I quickly go to commerce house where the head office is. Although my own office was in construction house. And I go to places like the trade services and the treasury operations. I remember Timothy Banjoko and Titi Bangu in those days will say, "Oh, young man, what are you doing here?" And Titi will say, "Timothy, leave him. He's doing the bank's job." And so while posting, I look at other tickets that the treasury operations people are posting. So while I was working hard, I was working smart to even equip myself with other knowledge of other parts of the bank. And so when the opportunity came, because I've been made ready, I took the opportunity to launch forward in my career. And today, like I said, the rest is history. So you cannot give or allocate any percentage to either more of hard work or more of smart work. The two have to run side by side for you to have a balanced career or balanced life ultimately in your lifetime. Thank you. How do we deal with office politics, especially when it is preventing you from climbing in your career? Again, I'll give an example of myself. Um, Sometimes my career in Citibank, in those days, um, Gilda, I'll still answer you directly, but let me give an example so that you will understand where I'm coming from by the time I give you a direct answer. Sometimes in my career in Citibank, um, in those days in Citibank, promotion exercise happens twice a year, half yearly. I think April and October or so. And summer, I was not promoted for about 3 years or so. And I've never asked anybody before this time and even after this time why I've not been promoted or why I've not been given a particular benefit. But on this particular occasion, my friends encouraged me that I should go to my boss, the group head, Fatai Karim in those days. That I should go and ask him, why have I not been promoted? This is the sixth time promotion is happening. This is the third year. And Fatai said, do I want to hear the truth? I said, yes. He said, he can't change a winning team. So where I'm seated, I'm still very relevant. Other things are coming to me, training and all those things. And that's why I got the 360 compensation cycle from pay, career development, learning and growth, and work environment. A lot of people clamor for pay. They leave the other three and they shoot themselves in the leg. They shortchange their future. But I came to understand at that very early stage of my career that there are three other things better than pay in compensation. And when he told me that, I felt very bad. But what did I do? I kept on doing what I was doing. It seemed people have overtaken me. Today, those people I thought had overtaken me with promotion, with going out of the bank to go and take 2 levels, today we are comparing notes. So, yes, there's office politics, Gilda. There's no doubt about it. People play different kinds of politics. But the only politics I know is the politics of leadership and hard work under God. Is there a job to be done? Please do it with all your might, with all your mind, with all your soul that God has given you. It might look that it's delayed. Eventually, unknown to you then, you will be thankful to God for not participating in that politics with those people that you think are climbing, quote and unquote, in that career. I'll give you a perfect example in the Bible as well. At least if you can relate with my own, because after the encounter with Fatai Karim was when Ediogogu came and a king came that remembered Joseph, and that was what launched me to South Africa and then launched me back home to join FCME at that level. There was a man in the Bible called Joseph. He was seeing dreams for other people. He was in good relationship with other people. But he felt this God has forgotten him and forgotten the dreams that he had in those days. And so 2 years before his gratification would come, he tried to work it out. He tried to play politics. He told the cupbearer of the king that when you guys get out, remember me and mention me to the kingdom. But because the time of his visitation has not come, his process of life is not completed. They forgot until 2 years later, when one of them that was still alive remembered and said, "Oh, I remember my sin today. There's somebody that can interpret the dream of the king." And that made Joseph to be not only the prime minister in Egypt, but to be a father to Pharaoh eventually. So my advice is that in dealing with it, face your work, be diligent, be passionate, do it with all intent and purpose, and then wait for the delayed gratification. And I'm sure God Almighty will bring it your way because you have a clean heart so to do. Thank you. Many of us young people have multiple talents and we find it hard to know where to focus, where our destination should be. How do we solve this problem? I thank you very much. Like I said, what the young people nowadays are going through is not too difficult or different from what we went through in our days. It's just that the approach. And from what I'm seeing, is about the approach you're talking about. How do you do that when you have multiple talents? God has given all of us different talents and we can exercise it in different ways. How do you do with that? Um, the first thing is that, like I mentioned earlier, find where your passion is. Please follow your passion. If your passion is in sweeping, even if you are working in a bank, make sure that the people that sweep for the bank, they do it well, teaching them how to sweep. And as you sweep at home, if your passion is in cooking, make sure you do the cooking like no one else can do it. Even when you are in a particular career for different reasons, some people find themselves in certain career pursuits because it pays the bills, because their friends are in it. However, they have passion for something else, or they have talent in other areas. I told you, in those days, I was in branch operations, but because I wanted to learn the entire banking, operations, sales, management, I went into other areas to explore for free how to do those things. So when you have multiple talents, make sure you exercise them in different areas. Collaborate with people that have established themselves in those areas, even if it's for free, what they call pro bono. Just do it. Feel fulfilled, acquire knowledge, acquire understanding, acquire wisdom for a later date when you'll be able to use it for your purpose and the generality of humanity in future. That is one of the whole essence of Trustees of True Riches. The mentors are here to guide you in solving this problem, that you have different talents, different giftings to help you identify it, to help you channel it in the right cause that will benefit you and the entirety of humanity in this life. That's the whole essence of trustees of true riches. Thank you. When creating long-term and short-term business strategies, what advice will you give to an entrepreneur? Number one is that you must be sure that you are called into the business you want to go into. Just like I advise people, don't jackpot because of frustration. Don't jackpot because your colleagues, your friends are doing so. In the past 1 week, we've been seeing what is happening to our people in foreign lands. Make sure that you are being led to a place where you are called to. The way I put it is that God said for every individual, every man, every tribe, every kindred, every nation, He has provided a place of their habitation. Why? So that they may be able to call upon Him in that He is not too far away from them. Don't go to a field and call God to come and bless it. It might not happen except in His mercy. Go to a field that has been blessed and God has led you to. So the first thing is that you're sure that you're going to a business or a relationship that God has called you into. Now, the second thing is that you must be able to convince yourself that I'm not going into this business just for profit. I'm going into it for continuity's sake. Even after I've left or I've retired, how is this business going to continue? What kind of people am I going to surround myself with that share the same objective, the same vision, the same mission statement with me? So you have the vision, the mission statement, you have the people who are the first set of resources that you're going to use to foster that business. That is the second strategy. The third is that you must be able to put aside something that will grow the business, whether you call it contingent allowance or whatever. You must be able to set aside certain things that will continue the business, whether you are there or not. Number four, you must be very, very upright. You must be very, very upright. That could be in different ways, but I'll mention two. Number one, you must do what you expect others to do. Number two, you must empathize, not sympathize. At every particular point in time, you must be ready to remove the bad eggs and encourage the good ones. You must. And lastly, you must always do what I call a rolling plan for your business. Whether you want to call it 1 year rolling plan, 2 year rolling plan, but in short terms, you do rolling plans to review the entire business and to put the things that you need to put in place rightly and let go certain things, including relationships with workers and even clients of your business. Those are the kind of things you should do both on the short term and on the long term for your business to thrive. Thank you. Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Nkechi. Thank you very much. I guess there are no more questions. At this point, again, I want to encourage us, please go to our website, trustesoftruriches.com.ng, and do register, especially the youth listening to us all over the world. And then see you again next month when you have another fellow um, and our arrows joining us on this program, God willing. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless you. May I wish you a very, very happy Christmas ahead and a prosperous 2024 as we go to the end of 2023, entering 2024. God bless you and thank you.